here is every professional yo-yo I've ever used to win a yo-yo competition and why I used it, including an unreleased yo-yo you guys may not have seen yet. Spoiler alert, it's the Outlier 5. It's available now on offsetyoyo.com for pre-order, and for the first few of you guys who pre-order, I'll throw in a free titanium Zenon. Act fast, limited time only. But back to the video. So I've been a competitive yo-yo player since 2011. Since then, a lot has changed. Competitive yo-yo tricks have gotten much harder and have changed altogether. Competitive yo-yo strategy has completely changed, and yo-yos themselves have been totally upgraded. So today, I'm looking back on every yo-yo contest I've ever won, and I'll take you guys through what yo-yo I used and why. Okay, so the first yo-yo contest that I ever won was in 2012. It was the Sydney Yo-Yo Contest. Now back then, the yo-yo judging system really favored fast yo-yo players, and it also really favored horizontal yo-yo tricks. Now at that time, the most premium competition yo-yos were these angular, low wall, V-shaped Japanese yo-yos. They were also made out of a more premium 7075 aluminium. So the first yo-yo I ever won a yo-yo competition with was the Word Irony JP 2012. Now this yo-yo was made by an Australian yo-yo company called Word, but it was very heavily inspired by the Japanese designs that were all the rage. So the Irony cost, I believe, $120 US way back when, which sounds expensive, but back then the Japanese models were like $150 for just a 7075 monometal yo-yo. Now the reason I liked the Irony was because for its time, it was bigger than most competition yo-yos on the market, and it was also quite a bit wider too. It also had this really deep triple shaped cut which really funneled the string into the gap of the yo-yo. This really helped me execute the high-speed combos and high-speed horizontal yo-yo tricks that helped me score more points and win my very first yo-yo contest. Now the cool thing about Word was that every year they would release a new model of the Irony. So in 2013 they released the Irony JP 2013. Creative name, I know. It was a slightly heavier, slightly wider version of the Irony JP 2012, and I used this to win the 2013 Sydney Yo-Yo Contest. Now my style was very similar. I still did a lot of speed combos, but I leveled up my horizontal. You see, at the time, a lot of yo-yo players were experimenting with these behind-the-back horizontal yo-yo tricks. So in 2013, I incorporated a few of those. Funnily enough, I still use a lot of these tricks today, but like landing it on something, this narrow, was much harder back then. Now in 2014, there were no new Ironies made, unfortunately, so I just switched over to a silver Irony JP 2013. Same yo-yo, different color. And I would use this to win my first national title. National Yo-Yo Contest requires 3-minute freestyles. Up until that point, I'd only been used to doing 2-minute freestyles. So in 2014, I needed some new tricks. 2014 inverted combos were kind of getting into the mainstream at that point, so I developed a few of those. I created a few arm hops and arm combos, but all in all, I began to get used to this idea of doing a variety of tricks on the same yo-yo. Now in 2015 saw the introduction of a new Irony. Now when this yo-yo was new, it almost looked like a bimetal. I believe Word was the first yo-yo company to ever do the whole bimetal styling, and this was the Irony JPX. This yo-yo I used to claim my second national yo-yo title in 2015. Now this was the one time I used a competition yo-yo that didn't really match what was trending competitively at the time. In 2015, technical tricks were making a comeback. A lot of the yo-yos were super rounded like this. This helped with string rejections and maneuvering in and out of intricate mounts. Now, while I did incorporate some more slacky technical tricks, I did so on a very angular, lightweight, fast competition yo-yo. Now, in 2016 to 2017, Word more or less stopped producing new versions of the Irony. And it was around this time that I experimented with other yo-yos, but none of them really fit me as well as the Irony did. And so in 2018, I decided to take matters into my own hands. So the next yo-yo competition I won was the 2018 Malaysian Yo-Yo Open, and I did it with an Outlier 1. Now, if you guys look carefully, you'll realize that the Outlier 1, at least, was literally just an Irony, except it was an outer ring bimetal. In 2015, a company named Yo-Yo Jam had this patent on outer ring metal yo-yos. But by the end of 2015, they went out of business. So it was at this time, literally outer ring bimetals became all the rage. Everyone was making them. Now with the gift of hindsight, the Outlier was good, but it was a little bit behind. Now in 2018, 2019, the entire competitive landscape changed. It was no longer enough just to be a speed player. It was no longer enough just to be a technical player. It was no longer enough just to have insane body yo-yo tricks. To win yo-yo contests, you now had to fuse styles together. So tricks that were really favored were things like, you know, hops and these really cliche hook combos, stuff like that. All these really pesky over-the-head hop combos that are terrifying to learn and super difficult to master. In this new era, you needed to know every style of trick. Yo-yoers and yo-yos themselves had to be capable of everything. And so kind of quietly, if you guys were paying attention, you'd notice that yo-yos just got wider and wider and wider. By 2018, for a yo-yo to be considered wide, it needed to be at least 45 millimeters wide. Outlier 1 was only 41 millimeters wide. By 2021, a wide yo-yo was considered 47 millimeters. Outlier 2 and Outlier 3 were only 43 millimeters wide. So by 2022, I was sick of being behind the curve and I leapfrogged everything and made a yo-yo 50 millimeters wide. Which brings us to Outlier Plus, a 50 millimeter wide outer ring bimetal yo-yo. And now that I was ahead technologically, I got my mojo back. With the Outlier Plus, I won the US International Open in 2023. I reclaimed my Australian National Yo-Yo title in 2023. I even qualified for World's Finals the first time ever in my competitive yo-yo career. And it was at this point I got a little cocky. Now, I've always been a huge fan of yo-yo players who flex on other yo-yo players by winning yo-yo contests with a plastic yo-yo. So in 2023, I developed my own plastic yo-yo. Now, the plastic cheat code was never really meant to be a competition yo-yo. It was more designed to be an affordable next generation finger spin DNA yo-yo. But while we were designing it, we realized that the only way to make it smooth was to make it 53 millimeters wide. And in doing so, we made it one hell of a plastic competition yo-yo. With this, I accomplished my dream of winning a yo-yo competition with a plastic yo-yo, and that's a flex, right? Okay, moving on. Which brings us now to 2024. Now, for the majority of the year, I just used the Outlier Plus, but after practicing with a 53 millimeter wide yo-yo and experiencing no downsides whatsoever, I knew that there was an opportunity to make another quantum leap forward in yo-yo technology. Now, the Outlier Plus was designed conservatively. We didn't know we could get it to 50 millimeters and still make it manufacturable. But now that we knew how to do that, we wanted a yo-yo even wider than the Outlier Plus, but with an overhang ring construction of the Outlier 3. And bonus points if we would be able to manufacture it. Now, long story short, this was an incredibly difficult thing to achieve. I'm gonna make an entire video of that later, but I pulled it off. And so I present to you Outlier 5. I defended my US International Open title, secretly using an Outlier 5, and I actually managed to win World's Prelims, also using an Outlier 5. The Outlier 5 is our most extreme competition yo-yo yet. It literally took every single other competition yo-yo and every understanding I pulled from there to create something like this. The Outlier 5's body is made out of 7075 aluminium. The rings overhang about 3 millimeters, and best of all, Outlier 5 is 55 millimeters wide. I know, but Brandon, your yo-yo's too wide, but Brandon, you're not gonna be able to do your tech tricks, but Brandon, you can't keep doing this. Now, it's worth mentioning that at 55 millimeters wide, you can still do all the technical tricks if you want to. If anything, it just makes it slightly easier because the yo-yo is wide enough and easy to catch. But listen, if you don't believe me, what I love to say is, don't worry, you'll be using something like this or this next year.